Alrighty guys, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Ichigatsu, once again, with another Roblox video. Today we are showcasing Glitched Denji. Do not mind the Denji in my hotbar. It is not the one I'm showcasing. I have a friend helping me out with the showcase. You can actually see him in the leaderboard. But, yeah, so let's just hop into the showcase. You guys will see how broken Denji actually is. I will say this was made after the showcase, just to add. I did not do the full buffed versions of all his DOTs. I just did like bleed because it's the weakest of his DOTs, but the non-buffed version of his bleed, and then I did rupture because he has it permanently. But yeah, let's get into the showcase. I will see you guys then. Alrighty guys, so as you can currently see, I am now currently set up in a infinite mode to showcase the new Godly Denji. So I know there's a glitched on the thumbnail of this video. That is because we are still doing a glitched Denji showcase. It's just not my Denji. I have my friend here, Taylor, helping me out with this video because he got glitched Denji in how many reels was it, Taylor? You guys can't hear him, but what did you say? It was like, yes, he got glitched Denji in like 3 reels. This man has the most insane trait luck I've ever seen. But yeah, so we can start the showcase. Taylor, if you want to play some down for us, thank you. By the way, one of the coolest things ever. I love that he has like, if you don't mind, place him down again just so you can see that. I love that like placement effect first off, and then so yeah, on placement with glitched, we don't have really a good enchant on him at the moment. You know, he's still new, so like we're still trying to get all the stuff on him. Like me, for example, on placement he's doing about 4.84 million. And this is his current first move. I don't know what I don't think there's a name for it just because it's placement, but you know, pretty simple, honestly, slash tech, just with a bunch of effects. Actually does look really good though, so I dig it. I see he does. I've used him, but I'm just explaining, guys. So he does seem to have another bar. I don't know what ALS's thing is on adding like, you know, bars to every unit. They discover a new little thing they find, like a bar, for example, and now they add it to every unit like they've been doing for the past few updates. But alright, so you can upgrade into the first move if you have enough cash. Okay, I will in a moment, Taylor. Thank you though for reminding me. So Denji does get a lot of DOT effects, but we will get into that later. He currently is doing 161 million with a 65.7 range and a 3.62 SPA. Not terrible for the moment. Pretty cheap. I mean, it's only 80k to get to this upgrade. He already has 2 DOT effects, but his DOT effects are a long explanation, so we'll get to that later. His next effect is basically just a slam, very quick slam, honestly. I think the first attack effect was better, but yeah, you can upgrade him to the second one if you have enough cash. So this is his last effect, but he does go full AoE, which is absolutely amazing for a DOT unit. And he is currently not 337 million. Well, actually, my bad. We're gonna upgrade him to max. He is at 532 million at max with 108 range with a 5.43 SPA. He does have a basically 50% chance to crit at the moment and a 245 crit damage, which isn't terrible. It's your average crit skill tree unit, which is what he's running, by the way, is a crit skill tree. By the way, this is not his highest damage. He does go higher once we get into his passives. You'll see why. But his average DOT effects, he's usually going to carry these two, hemorrhage and rupture. Rupture is kind of, I thought another unit had it, but I guess not. Rupture is kind of similar to Mutilate, but it adds on every so often. He gets another 130% damage on top of the 280. But he basically always carries like Rupture once he's finished one of his passives, and then he usually carries like a bleed, hemorrhage, stuff like that. But now if we get onto his passives, his first one is applying fear to all enemies within range upon placement, once per enemy. So like, for the most part, he's basically just, you know, doing what every unit does, but his fear only, this version of fear only applies like as soon as he's placed, so it's not really that useful. Plus, fear is not that great of a DOT, to be honest, overall. But here's where his first main passive is. Every 10 attacks, Denji cycles between 4 different DOTs in order. By the way, this is where I was getting at earlier, where he was switching between bleed, dismantle, hemorrhage. His first one is Hemorrhage Saw, gaining hemorrhage effect. he's dealing 2.25 times damage instead of the normal 1.3, but you can increase his damage by 15%. So it's basically just a buffed hemorrhage realistically, which actually isn't terrible, meaning that it's an extra DOT. And then he has for his bleed DOT, which he's currently holding at the second. It's for every enemy in range affected by the bleed, he's gaining plus 2% bleed damage, cap 30. Basically, most of his passive is realistically just buffed versions of the DOT, which is actually really useful, and meaning that he's usually on average carrying 3 to 4, on average 3 DOTs. So, really useful actually. And then his last one is, let me go back. This is also part of it for every enemy. Oh wait, I explained that. My bad. But so yeah, he's basically gaining a 30% extra bleed, and then his mutilate is, the mutilate just gains extra timing, with his within his SPA basically, and then his last one is dismantle. It's basically just draining the HP of the enemy also, upon also that bleed. So he's doing the 140 and then the 75% cut regen. I mean, my bad, 95 cut regen. But so he basically just cycles through that, and then this passive is actually really good. This next passive, ally consumption. So every 10 attacks, he eats a random unit in range. There's basically two halves to this. On one half, if he eats a unit with a DOT effect. So like, just an example, I was using it earlier. Benimaru. If he eats Benimaru, no, it does not sell the unit, but if he eats the unit, he gains 25% damage, and if they do have a DOT effect, he gains that DOT effect. For example, like Black Flames on Benimaru, which is really busted actually. And then his other half is if they don't have a DOT effect, he just gains 50% damage in general. But both of those are really good because they just make his DOT even more broken. Now the only problem is you can't exactly see what his DOT damage is, but I will pull a calculator up for that in a second. But so yeah, that basically just buffs him overall, like damage wise, which can really make his DOT busted. And then demon consumption. Every time Denji attacks, he has a 10% chance to consume the enemy. That basically is just throwing their damage back at him. It's kind of like a summon realistically, but instantly. And then if he consumes more than 75 enemies of the same types, like for this map, for example, if he consumes 75 nature elements, he's doing 100% extra damage to that element, which in a lot of cases can be useful. And then for the passive that the bar is based on, he's just basically gaining 15% range, gaining despair, which, by the way, once he gets these, they're permanent. 75%, every 5 ticks, he has a 50% chance to chain them, which stuns them. So he basically gains a stun. Then the next one, enemies take 15% bleed DOT damage during the stun, basically buffing all of his DOT once again. And also another thing I forgot to add, his buff is plus 30% damage to all bleed DOT, which basically, so overall, his damage may not seem great, but once you read into his passives, you realistically, like, buff it. Overall, he's buffing his DOT almost by double, is the main point. And then at max, though, he gains 5% DOT damage to all units in range. Does not buff him, though, unfortunately. If it did, though, he would be insane, which, obviously, they're trying not to make power creep so bad. Now, I'm going to pull a calculator up. Hopefully I do this right. Oops, wrong one. Let's see. Okay, I don't know why that's not working, but there we go. There's the actual calculator. So if I do this right, we are not. I don't know if I don't think I'd be able to pull off the calculations for his like status effects, to be honest, because of how much it changes. It'd just be hard to focus on. So I am just going to do his basic DOTs before any of the buffs to show you guys on base what he's doing. So basically, if we're getting the maximum, just this, okay, regular rupture, you're gonna do 371 times 280%, if that's on here somewhere. Yes. So right there, his rupture is doing always 1.38 billion, which is 1,380,000. I think that's right. Yeah. So I'm at 38 million. My bad, 38 million. So right there, that first status effect. By the way, Rupture does stay permanently after he does his whole thing, roulette basically. And then for his Despair, they just take 50% damage from all elements except Dark. So that's just basically like half his damage added on. Well, not Denji, of course, but like all the other units you have, they're basically just doing an extra 50%. And then Bleed is just 140% and cuts regen. So you would do 548. Wait, nope. 548 times. What was it? Wait, nope. It went away, but I think it was 140. That alone's also doing 767 million. So like and I mean Bleed's like the worst DOT he has, so realistically you could say he's doing almost like 2.5 billion always. And then you also got to count his buffing on his DOTs. So overall, Denji is a really good unit, but also to add on, Gilgamesh just is insane, and they already weren't trying to power creep him, so he's going to be number one realistically, probably for at least another Godly till the next Godly update. They made him too broken to even like. The person helping me this, Taylor, he has Gilgamesh glitched also, and 90% of the time he places glitched Gilgamesh, and that's all he places and wins the match. He is just insane. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope you enjoyed the Glitch Denji showcase. Shout out to Taylor for helping us with this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.